There are few hairstyles as distinctive as the Christian monk's tonsure. When you see someone sporting the shaved head with the ring of hair, you know what they're probably doing the rest of their life. Here's the story behind the monk's iconic haircut. According to the Encyclopedia of Hair, A Cultural History, it's unclear just when monks started adopting the trend of shaving the tops of their heads while leaving that little ring of hair. Historians do think it started around the same time men started organizing into devout communities of monks, which places the time frame around the 2nd or 3rd century AD. There are a few reasons why early monks might have chosen to go for this sort of look, and one is that it had long been tradition to completely shave the head of slaves to denote their low status. Early monks styled themselves as slaves of Christ, and the tonsure might have been a way to demonstrate their obedience to the divine. There's another theory too, and this one comes from Dublin historian Daniel McCarthy. He says the distinctive hairstyle was a tribute to the crown of thorns placed on Christ's head during the crucifixion. The tonsure was done to mark the occasion of the novice formally taking vows and becoming an actual monk, and monasteries had barbers who were responsible for maintaining the look. Seems straightforward enough, but history and religion are never straightforward. The tonsure that gets featured in all kinds of movies is actually one of 3 different styles. The one that everyone knows is called the Roman or St. Peter's tonsure, while some monks, particularly devotees of St. Paul, chose to shave their entire heads in what's called an Eastern style. Then there was a Celtic or Simon Magus tonsure. Like the name suggests, it was common in the British Isles and Ireland, but its exact characteristics are debated. Some say Celts would shave the fronts of their heads from ear to ear while leaving the rest long, while McCarthy's research suggests heads were shaved to include a fringe across the front. No one is completely sure because the Celtic tonsure was outlawed in 664. Celts had been sporting the tonsure well before they met anyone who ever called themselves Roman. There was no religious belief or basis for the head shaving, and when Christianity came to the Celts, they decided to keep wearing their tonsures in the same way they always had.
Glory unto you, ghost man in the sky that created us all and predetermines everything. I'll see you in 6 weeks.
McCarthy says that was a huge problem for a few different reasons, and the church's outrage over this different hairstyle was so great there was a call for clerics who wore it to be excommunicated. English Heritage says the different monks' tonsures were a visible sign of something the Christian church absolutely didn't want. Different views not just on hair, but on other traditions too. The biggest point of contention was how the date for Easter was figured out each year. Both traditions used the lunar cycle to find the date, but the methods were so different that the Roman and Celtic dates could be as far as a month apart. And it wasn't just a few people following one tradition or the other, even royal households were divided down the middle. This was a huge deal, and as one 8th century writer put it, this dispute rightly began to trouble the minds and consciences of many people who feared that they might have received the name of Christian in vain. They couldn't be having that, so the 2 factions met in 664. They presented their cases to the king, who chose to follow the Roman faction and outlaw the Celtic tonsure in favor of the St. Peter's tonsure. Why? Because of the answer to one simple question: who is the gatekeeper of heaven? For those who didn't grow up in Sunday school, that would be St. Peter. For the next 1,300 years, monks following accepted church tradition shaved their heads in the style of St. Peter. It wasn't until 1972 that Pope Paul VI declared that those studying to be priests were no longer required to shave their heads. The reason? It was described as an empty ceremony, and some church leaders even suggested the hairstyle might have been making some rethink entering the priesthood.